Namaskar, salam, adab. And of course, it's good afternoon, right? Okay, so I think the more salient points have been heard, most important points which one need to discuss is there. So I'm not going to discuss anything about the data or the statistics or for that matter frameworks even, let alone the quad or anything contravening the quad. I'll give you a story because that's what I'm good at. I'll not speak about anything which related to, I had prepared a very long PowerPoint presentation for each of you, but I thought that why bother? Because you can always find this information from everywhere and anywhere. Instead, the story is when I had been a university student, Bangladesh was a food deficient country. And it was a food deficient country, not because of water shortage, not because of unavailability of technology, but because of politics. In my understanding, though water and other implements, agriculture extension, innovation, seeds, manures, fertilizers, name it. There are many components to agriculture. And I have very good agricultural specialists sitting on the floor. So I'm not going to speak about those complementarities which is there. But it's about the identity of humans, how we see life, how we conceive our own constructs, and how we conceptualize the system's perspective into the way that we are as humans, as living human elements inside a certain system. So, ladies and gentlemen, for a couple of minutes, forget that I'm a Director General from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Bangladesh. There are many different identities. Essentially, I teach artificial intelligence as well. So I'll probably try to take you more towards that area. Artificial intelligence is coming, so be aware of it. So essentially, what I'm looking at for my part is a systems perspective and the narrative epistemology of being a citizen, being a human. And if we could bring the humans in the center of the definition. You know, when we were, again, children, there was a writer. I'm not sure if any one of you have read it. Neuromancer. There was a book in the early 80s. Richard Gibson, that the future is already here. It's just unevenly distributed. You have to find the pieces and put it together. So whatever that we're discussing about, food security, insecurity, it's already here. You just have to identify where they are. I'll give you two definitions. First, which is from the World Food Security Summit. Food security is defined as meaning that all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food that meets their food preferences and dietary needs for an active and healthy life. I'll give you another definition. Whenever that you're in a mess, try to go back to the definitions to find out why you had been here in the first place. And that's from the United States Department of Agriculture, which defines food insecurity as a situation of limited or uncertain availability of nutritionally adequate and safe foods, or limited or uncertain ability to acquire acceptable foods in socially acceptable ways. So food security and food insecurity are not necessarily opposite to each other. These are two very different constructs altogether. So when someone is speaking about food security, or for that matter, agricultural sustainability, and in a time frame when we are essentially in a time of, in the very beginning, there was Samudra Manthan. And out of the Manthan came two things. Apart from the Devis and the Ratnas and other things, came two things. One was the Amrita, life-giving nectar. And the other was Hala Hala, the most devastating poison from the same Samudra Manthan. I have reasons to believe that the whole world is going through that kind of a Samudra Manthan at this moment. Now, don't quote me anywhere, because for next couple of minutes, I'm not a foreign service officer here. I'm just someone who wants to think with you, alongside you, probably. So that's the second definition that I want you to just remember. Why? Because there are four pillars to food security, as have been defined by more knowledgeable individuals globally. One is availability, two is access, three is utilization, and the four, stability. If I'm not wrong, the reason that we're discussing all these things here is because we are facing a certain uncertain situation in the days ahead because of climate changes, adverse changes in the climate, rising insecurity in the global security domain, the governance issues, finance, food, fuel, finance, at the Addis Ababa Declaration had put it in succinctly in 2014. we are facing uncertainty. It's not risk. In finance, there's a difference between risk and uncertainty. I'm sure if Mr. Shashank Rai would be looking at it, uncertainty and risk are two different things. Risk is you know exactly what you're getting, even if that's a problem, even if that's a threat. But uncertainty is something which you cannot really fathom. It's like more like anarchy. And I'll take a cue from Mr. Ron Answorth, who was speaking about the women empowerment. You know, there's a study which was conducted by Manchester in 2017. I was, in fact, one of the supervisors of it. Interestingly, food insecurity, climate adversity have produced some of the most ferocious, if not ferocious, most foundationally important leadership inside Bangladesh in women. If you look at our women leadership, which includes the Honorable Prime Minister, who single-handedly, and I must say single-handedly, changed the country from being an LDC to a very aspiring and ambitious developing country, and we are going ahead. We're growing fast in spite of many things. She comes from essentially an area which is highly climate adverse. Our Speaker of Parliament comes from an area which is highly climate adverse, which is also food insecure. Now, essentially, in spite of being a Muslim majority country, we have women leadership across the whole length and breadth of the country, and which is coming essentially from, again, areas of insecurity. That is something to look at. In 2009, when this government had taken power, we had defined the foreign policy objectives inside. It's not an official statement. That economy, ecology, security, and governance, these are our core issues. Slowly and gradually, we tried to superimpose that structure or that objective structure with something what we call in Oxford, the Oxford vantage point of technology, markets, and organizations connecting that. And on top of it, since let's say 2018, we started developing the technical application platforms, the finance, and the equitable distribution of wealth as our core objectives. Why? Because we come from, and essentially not only Bangladesh, but also the whole of Northeast, and even West Bengal, and part of the Indian East, if you'd like to look at the South Asian subcontinent, Nepal, Bhutan, Indians, East, Bangladesh, and many countries associated with it, or regions associated with, we are bottom of pyramid markets. And bottom of pyramid markets have very peculiar characteristics. We have institutional voice. We don't have many rules and regulations which guide exactly what to do, what to expect, what not. Second, we have inchoate demands. We know that we want something, but we don't exactly know what it is. And third is we have distributed and divided and disjointed demand bases. Out of these 12 or 13 characteristic traits that BOP markets share, which I'd written in one of my books 2 years before, I think these are the three more important elements which affect the way that we see governance and systems into operation, in perspective, and how we see that we operate between and amongst, as you are saying, cross-boundary definition of our projects and other things. What we need is not essentially only water. Yes, water is very important, and that is why we are here. The Honorable Foreign Minister yesterday, Bangladesh Foreign Minister, categorically said that water, the rivers are our mothers. Essentially, the whole of life and living ecosystem in this part of the world grew out of the rivers. And we have desecrated that riverine ecosystem with indiscreet human indiscretion. Indiscreet and indiscretion. That is something which is completely unacceptable to me as a thinker, no matter which country has done it. Inside Bangladesh, we have created a legal architecture where the river has acquired a legal personality. Now the rivers have inviolable legal rights as a legal person. And that has been upheld by the Honorable Prime Minister in her many decisions. So we are trying to get our rivers back from land grabbers, landfills, and unnecessary bridges. As I was just listening in the last session, that, okay, what happens? Mr. Sanjay Hajarika is there. So what happens when you have a bridge? Yes, we need to have bridge. Bridges have different, very important connotations, but we need to have bridges in a way which does not really obstruct or kill the rivers or the environmental flow of the rivers. What we need, systems, infrastructure, capabilities, rules of procedure, rules of engagement, and more importantly, a political intent, an iron will to create a system which serves the people, which puts the people, the human individual, at the very center of our planning. Now, I would like to go one step ahead, but I'm sure I have many policymakers from my own country here, so I'd not like to go that far. I put the rivers in the center, put the land, Mother Earth at the center, then put the people, then put your countries. Across all foundational barriers that we call the sovereign barriers, countries will always remain, the flag will always remain, and I'm proud to be there. But is your people not my people? Can you tell me that a Bangladeshi is also not your concern as a human? Can I say that no matter what happens in India, doesn't really matter? Can I say that? No, I cannot. Because in Bangladesh, in Bengal to be specific, we call it a syncretic culture. Shobar upore manushyoto, tahar upore. That's what we call it. The first is humans. The religion, the spirit, the faith is in humanity. On top of it comes your all other systems. Be it a country, be it a government, be it anything else, no matter how you define it. The first is the core, and the core is the human spirit. As we have said, the food, fuel, finance, that could be complemented by innovation, entrepreneurship, and equity. Can the human individual have an equitable access to the ownership of the systems which serves it? Can the human individual say that the government which represents it, that the government belongs to it? Now, it's not that can someone say it or not. That is a question that one needs to answer at every single step, at every single juncture of a decision. Personally, I'm looking at a future which is underwritten by artificial intelligence. That there is a reason that I brought it here. And the reason is, I told you that in the very beginning, it's not the unavailability of water or the unavailability of seeds, which is a very important issue, as I was telling you before, that Bangladesh was a food deficient country. Just 2 more minutes. Why it was food deficient country? Because we had prescriptions from, more knowledgeable organizations which said that, divest from the agriculture sector. But the very moment that this prime minister came to power, the first target of increasing investment was in the agriculture sector. Let the farmers leave first, then everything else will come. Look at it today. Once the food structure has been there, the whole country has started moving up ahead. So essentially, it is a question of identity politics, which will be exacerbated with the introduction of the artificial intelligence, the bias and everything else. Blockchain is already there. What happens is, for everything else, including water and other availability of resources and the implements, it is information which is important. Information connected to the systems of technology, markets, and organizations. So that the human agency, the human autonomy, and the human franchise in making a decision about life, living, livelihood, and sustainability is ensured by the system, is guaranteed by the system, and the human individual can claim ownership on each aspect of the governance spectrum which affects him or her. So that's in short about all the things that I wanted to discuss. I have spared you the trouble of giving you a very elaborate and lengthy, data-filled information, but I just wanted to share with you some of my stories. Stories which helped me survive, thrive, grow, and then aspire and dream. Many years before, someone had told me that Bangladesh, okay, you will survive somehow. Today, it's difficult to say this. Why? Because we have gone to the roots, absolutely the roots, the grasses. And as someone was saying that we need big projects, yes, we definitely need big projects. But these big projects must have the smallest components very prominently featured there. The ants and the mice. Lord Ganesha travels on top of mice, or mouse for that matter. And the mice or the ants are the human individuals. We, all of us, each of us individually, are the ants and the mice. And so these small components need to feature very prominently in the very big projects that we're all discussing about and we're all thinking about, dreaming about, and probably speaking about. That's where I leave you with. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr.